It's funny because I think in like a couple of interviews or conversations I was having with people there, I noted the presence of Palestinian rights advocates, which I hadn't noticed before. And then we saw this picture. I think it was Friday afternoon it was taken. Maybe it was Saturday. But I think we also noted when Cory Booker came into the room and people were getting very excited. And Cory Booker took this picture with some Palestinian rights advocates and perhaps maybe some immigrant rights advocates. And the sign says, "From Palestine to Mexico, all the walls have to go." And obviously, the wall that is being referred to in terms of Mexico is the wall that Donald Trump obsessively talks about, the see-through wall. That so it has to be see-through, so you can see the drug runners firing those cannons, which shoot the packets of cocaine over the wall, so that it doesn't land on your head and you get injured. That, I think, is the official explanation as to why they need to be see-through. And then the Palestinian wall, of course, is the wall that was built in the West Bank, right across Palestinian property, destroying many olive tree fields, I guess you would call them, or I don't know if you would call them forests, but the wall in dividing parts of the West Bank is rather controversial. At least in terms of, it's been long-standing. Well, let me just read this from Cory Booker, because he was apparently the power of right-wing pro-Israel money in the Democratic Party has not diminished, perhaps maybe as much as I had hoped, but he released the following, or I should say the following has been, the spokesperson has released the following. Just before delivering a speech in New Orleans, Senator Booker was approached by dozens of people for photos. That is true. In one instance, amid the rush, he was posing for a photo and was passed a sign to hold. He didn't have time to read the sign, and from his cursory glance, he thought it was talking about Mexico and didn't realize anything to do with Israel. He hopes for a day when there'll be no need for security barriers in the state of Israel. But while active terrorist organizations threaten the safety of people living in Israel, security barriers are unfortunate but necessary to protect human lives, said Booker spokesperson Jeff Geitz. Now, look, I don't buy that explanation from Senator Booker, spokesperson. I think that he was perfectly aware of what sign he was holding up. And I think he just got severe pushback from somebody. Maybe it was just somebody. Maybe it was two somebodies. Maybe it was three somebodies. But I don't think it was much more than that. I have a feeling it was like a couple of big donors were very upset. And they walked it back. Now, just to give you a sense of how uncontroversial that sign actually is, and how little, this is the problem with Booker, right? This is the problem with Booker. I don't think this is a hill he should die on, the validity of a sign, because it's empty rhetoric anyways. But this is not a controversial position. The idea that you shouldn't be building that wall or you shouldn't have built that wall. Here is I guess apparently a radical pro-Palestinian rights advocate. Back, I would say now this was probably around 2003, maybe this was 2004, 2001. I don't know. It's almost maybe a decade and a half ago. I don't know exactly when this was. But here he is discussing whether or not Israel should even build this wall in the first place.
Steve. That would be Steve of Reuters.
Would you like to see Israel release the political prisoners, and would you like to see them stop building this barrier wall?
I think, first of all, on the wall, let me talk about the wall. I think the wall is a problem, and I've discussed this with Ariel Sharon. it is very difficult to develop confidence between the Palestinians and Israel with a wall snaking through the West Bank. And I will continue to discuss this issue very clearly with the Prime Minister. As I said in my statement today, he has issued a statement saying he's willing to come and discuss that with us, and I appreciate the willingness to discuss it.
Look, when George W. Bush is to the left of you on just about anything, you know you've got a problem. But particularly when it comes to Israel and Israel's security policy. This is an administration that largely many attribute the unleashing of Israel's worst instincts. Because for a long time, America provided a damper on the most self-destructive of Israel's, and not just self-destructive, destructive of others, Israel's impulses. And the Bush administration widely credited with failing to serve that function for Israel. The idea being that Israel's could, in some respects, always have an excuse that we United States stands between us in allowing Hamas that we shouldn't go on a bombing run in Lebanon or whatnot. I mean, so the idea that George Bush is to the left of a position that Cory Booker, not even a position, a sign that Cory Booker was afraid of holding is a problem.
When they have a meeting, do you think there's a chance that they look at that and say, well, that was a tough situation, but we handled that as well as we could have? So you hold the sign up because you don't want to say, no, I don't want to hold that because of Palestine in that room. And then you get to come back and walk it back later, and you get to basically play it both ways. Yeah,
I don't think it's that sophisticated, because I think it's very easy for a staffer to come up and say, the senator doesn't like to hold signs during pictures. Just let's have you guys in there. The senator doesn't hold signs, just as a policy. I don't even need to read it. It could say USA #1. We don't hold signs. I think he thought what you thought. Like, I'm going to do this because I'm going to show my bona fides. And then he realized like his bona fides were getting out in front of him a little too much. Sometimes when your bona fides is showing, it's a little bit embarrassing.
It's hard to keep it straight, which non-American people are humans and which are slightly less than,
That's right. Sometimes it gets very confusing. You just don't know which brown people are we allowed to be okay with and which ones are we not. That can get very difficult to parse.